The core four. This was the big breakthrough that I had with this book, and I'm really excited to share about it with you. Finally, for 2 years, I've not talked about this, so finally I can show you this stuff. All right, and so there are only 4 ways one person can tell other people about anything. And that comes from the fact that there are 2 types of audiences and 2 types of communication. And those create, 2 by 2, the core 4. So let's dive into this. You have people who know you, which are warm audiences, and you have people who don't know you, which are other people's audiences, right? Strangers. All right, and so warm are people who gave you permission to contact them. Friends, family, followers, current, past customers, contacts, anyone who knows who you are. Now, little differentiation here I just want to point out is that they need to know you to be warm. You don't necessarily need to know them. And the larger you get, the more you advertise, the more people will know you without you necessarily knowing them. All right, and so I just want to be very clear here, is it doesn't have to be bidirectional, it has to be unidirectional. They have to know you. Now in the beginning, the easiest way to find people who know you is people you also know too. All right, now, on the second level here, you've got cold. And the clearest definition I give you is people who did not give you permission to contact them, AKA strangers. These are other people's audiences, lists, or eyeballs, earballs that belong to platforms, right? So if you advertise on Facebook, like those people know Facebook, they don't know you. And so they haven't given you permission to contact them, but they've given Facebook permission. So you use Facebook as a proxy to contact them through, and then if they decide to engage with you and opt in, then they become a lead for you. All right, then they become warm over time. So those are the 2 types of audiences, people who know you, people who don't. Boop. And so then you have the 2 types of communication. This was a huge breakthrough for me, like to understand the simplicity of this, because once you understand the only 4 ways you can let people know about your stuff, then that means that these are the only 4 things you do to advertise your business. And it makes why you're not getting as many leads very simple to solve. Not easy, but simple to know what to do next. All right, so on the one hand, you've got one-to-one communication. This is private communication. On the other hand, you've got one-to-many communication. In other words, public communication. And to clarify a term that gets confused all the time in the advertising and marketing world is what's the difference between outbound and inbound? All right, so here's the clearest definition I can give you of outbound. Outbound is where the first contact with the prospect happens in a private environment. A voicemail, think emails, think a private communication, think a text message. These are all one-to-one environments. If I text my friend, no one else sees that text. If I email somebody, no one else sees that email. If I do a voicemail, no one else sees that. It's private, it's one-to-one. All right, that is outbound. Now, most inbound, the flip side of that, which is where you contact someone publicly, eventually becomes one-on-one communication. So if I run an ad or I do a billboard and then they call me, it doesn't make them outbound. But delineating between the 2 is important because it tells you what you need to do to let them know about your stuff, which is advertising, all right? So billboard, podcasts, posts, ads, anything that you do to make content, all of those things are one-to-many. And I want to add a quick note to this because people get confused about this one. If you send an email blast to your list, that is still one-to-one communication. Technically, it's done really fast with automation by a computer. And so that's where this starts to get confusing for people. They're like, wait, if I cold email, is that inbound? It's like, no, it's still outbound. Even if you send a blast to a list, it's still outbound, okay? It's just really, really fast. And that's where automation can confuse these things. And we'll get to how to use automation to scale the shit out of your advertising later on in the training. So if we know what the 2 audiences are, people who know you and people who don't, and we know the 2 types of communication, private communication, public communication, which is one-to-one and one-to-many, all right? That leads us to the core 4. And this is like, if there was the value equation in this book, this is it, all right? And so these are the only ways that you can advertise. One-to-one to people who know you is warm outreach. One-to-one to people who don't know you is cold outreach. One-to-many to people who know you is when you post content. One-to-many to people who don't know you is when you run paid ads. Those are the 4 ways, the only 4 ways that a person on their own, and I'll show you other ways later, but one person on their own can let other people know about their stuff. Now, I'm going to show you how to leverage this to unlock massive scale using other people in the second half of the training. But you have to know the fundamentals of advertising in order to unlock the advanced version of advertising. This is the way. That is the core 4. And now we're going to dive into each of them individually so I can show you the actual execution the same way I did with engaging to make a lead magnet. I'm going to show you step by step how to create this within your business, that advertising method to get you more leads. So now that we know what the core 4 is, now we go to warm outreach. which is the first of the core four, which is people who know you, reaching out to them one-on-one. And I will build linearly from simplest to most complex in this training so that if you are starting out, this is where I'd recommend you begin, because this is the easiest way. And I'll tell you a quick story about how I started using this and how I've used it since then. My first time I ever did warm outreach. This was also the first business I ever started. And so I was actually filing my MBA application to go to, a fancy school. And one of the questions was, how will a Harvard degree help your short and long-term business goals? And I thought about it for like 3 days, and I realized that it wasn't actually gonna help my long-term business goals because I wanted to start a business. And I figured if I took 2 years and didn't make money, that's like probably 120, 140 grand of money I wasn't making because I was going to school. And then I have to pay another 120, 150 grand to go there. I'm like, man, I'm like 300 grand in the hole by going to school and 2 years. And I was like, and the average starting salary coming out of business school at the time was 120,000 a year. So I was like, man, so I could take that $300,000 in 2 years, and if I can get to at least $10,000 a month in income, I will have passed what I would have done with the education, and hopefully that will be my business degree. And that was the reasoning I had, because for me, I wanted to start a business. So I thought maybe that's the best way to learn about business is to start one. And so that's what I decided to do. So that application actually drove me to start Impetus Group, which if you hear me say it out loud is ridiculous, because the first time I told someone was like, I started my LLC, it's called Impetus Group. They were like, impotence? I was like, fuck. I was like, that's why it was available. And so I quickly changed it to the Free Training Project. And so what that was I asked people to train them in exchange for them donating $500 to $1,000 to the charity of their choice. All right, and if they didn't have one, I had one that I recommended. And so it was a way that I could get people to try my stuff for free, but like free for me in terms, but they had to have some skin in the game. Now, I could have just done it for free and that would have worked too. This is just how I chose to do it. You can do whatever way you want. And so what I did was I said, hey, I'm doing this thing. That was my offer. I'm helping people transform for 12 weeks. I'll do all their nutrition, all their training, all their grocery list, everything to help them transform, and I'll do it online. And I said, do you know anybody who'd be interested? And I messaged everybody in my contact list. And I messaged everyone I knew across all my platforms and all my cell phone contacts, and I got 6 people who said, yeah, I'd be down. And so I got 6 people, and I actually still have their before and after pictures, so they're all right there. I think I maybe got extraordinarily lucky, or they also knew that this was like really important to me, and these were all people who knew me. So they tried really hard because they knew it mattered to me, and I told them, I was like, I need these, so I want to start a fitness business, so like, really try. Like, I'll give you everything, but like, and I gave them my cell phone number and I talked to them whenever they needed me. Like, I was just there. And to be really clear, this business only required an LLC, a bank account, and a cell phone. And that was how I started this business. I would text them the thing and they would text it back to me. And that was it. All right. And so the key point here is that I worked for free. And then later, over time, I said, hey, do you know anybody else who'd be interested in this? And then they started referring me business. And at that point, I said, after the 12 weeks, I said, would you guys mind paying me? Because I'm actually going to start doing this full time rather than my consulting job. And crazy enough, people were like, oh, I don't mind. And just like that, everyone converted over, and I was making about $4,000 a month from home. And I replaced my consulting income. And all I had was an LLC, a bank account, a way to process money. And the fourth one, a way to communicate, my phone and email, was the most important, because that's how I was able to make money and reach people. That's how I advertised. I didn't even know it yet. I was using the first of the core 4, and I still use it today, but that was the first time I ever did it. And so if you're starting out, it might be the most profitable and easiest way to get going. So that is warm outreach in my experience with it. So here's how it works. And again, we're gonna build this soup to nuts for you, this system. So if you're starting your first business, memorize this training. Like, actually, don't memorize this training. Do this training and then go make money, and then you can move on to the next ones, all right? Just consider them like graduation levels. Now, and fundamentally, you can do any of the ways to advertise immediately. Like, if you have the skill set and you have the money, you could do any of the other ones too. This is, again, my story and how I did it. So warm outreach is one-on-one to people who know you, right? It is the cheapest, most reliable way to find new customers, all right? Cheap and reliable, good combo, all right? And you can do it without being icky. And I'm gonna show you how to do it without being a scumbag. All right, so the reason MLMs and some of these things have really bad names is because they don't teach people how to be human beings and not be weirdos when they solicit people for business. And I'm gonna show you how to do it and how I did it, okay? So the first step of this, all right, so this is step number 1, is that you get a list, all right? Now, you might say, but I don't have any leads. Everyone has a list. And so right now, if you pull up your phone and you look at all your contacts, those are leads. You look at your social media, you look at Instagram, you see how many people follow you. Maybe it's 200 people. Fine. They have people that you have means to contact. You look through every one of your past emails because you've changed them so many times. You look at all the contacts of the people that you have emailed over the years. Those are leads. And guess what? If you add all those together, most people have contacted 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people throughout their lives across the platforms that they exist on. And if right now you have no contacts in your phone, on Facebook, and you don't do social media, welcome to planet Earth. It's a great place. We'd love to have you. And if you want to get customers, you have to go where the fish are. And you have to find out where they're paying attention and put yourself there. So at the very least, you should know someone because everybody knows someone because you were born. All right, so everybody knows somebody. And so you take that list, and that is step one. You get your list. And so there's your proof. Grab your phone, all your email accounts, social media followers, put the names on a sheet. Put the names on a sheet, and you're like, wow, that sounds like work, Alex. Welcome to business. All right. Then add up the numbers on the sheet. You actually don't need to add it up. Excel adds it up for you. All right. And then figure out the number. That number is your starting list of how many leads you have. This is exactly what I did when I started a different business 10 years after this. When I started getting our software company, I made a list of every single person that I thought might be interested in this thing from every contact source I had. And that's how I started that business. And I'll tell you that because it was a more advanced strategy I'll show you in the second half of the training, but it still started with this core strategy of understanding warm outreach. And if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did later. So once you have your list, you pick a platform, okay? Now, there's lots of different platforms. YouTube Shorts, YouTube, email, LinkedIn, TikTok, Amazon's even a platform now, Instagram Reels, Instagram posts, Twitter, podcast, there's a million of them. And guess what? In the future, maybe all these symbols will change, but the fact that people will pay attention to stuff will not. And the places where people pay attention to stuff, you will be able to advertise. So then you pick a platform. If you're like, well, which one do I pick? Pick the one you got the most contacts on and start there, because either way, you're gonna move through them all. Think about this. If you have a contact on email and you only have them on email, then you're gonna start there. If you have them in 2 places, you can contact them in 2 places. In some ways, it's almost like 2 leads. As an aside, it's the same thing where people have preferences of consumption. People also have preferences for communication. Like, I don't like doing phone calls, but I'm a decent texter. I don't really like messaging platforms much either. So like, if somebody emails me and somebody texts me and it's the same person, likely to respond to the text is significantly higher. So don't feel weird about using multiple means of communication to get a lead to respond, all right? So you're like, okay, I have my list, I pick my platform, well, what do I say? So here's what you do. You look for 30 seconds to see what's new in that person's life. You look at their social media, you look at their business, you look anywhere you can find stuff, you type their name into a search engine and you see what comes up, all right? And then you ask them about it. Notice, is there anything icky about asking somebody who you know about themselves? First rule of Dale Carnegie, people love talking about themselves. Let them. This is pretty easy, right? We're moving through this pretty quick. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. So what we're doing there is we personalized. Instead of just saying, hey, want to buy my thing, you say, hey, saw you had a baby. Hey, saw you just moved cities. Hey, saw you played guitar at that thing this weekend. It looks awesome. How was it? Then you reach out. Now, obviously, some of these things happen at the same time. I separate them out for steps just for simplicity. All right? And so then here's what you do. You reach out to 100 people every single day via email, phone call, direct message, SMS, voicemail, whatever it is. And you reach out to the person who knows you. And you do 100 every day. And this is one of my favorite Chinese proverbs. Everything must be hard before it can be easy. And so if you're like, man, this is going to be hard. Well, I promise you that you probably waited 20 years to do the first one, but you only wait 2 minutes to do the second one, and then 20 seconds to do the third one. And it gets easier the more you do. All right? And again, your big fear is of getting rejected. And I'll tell you how to get around that in a second. Not the fear, I'll just show you what you need to say so you don't even get into that situation. All right? And when you do this, you're like, well, do I reach out to them once? No, reach out to them multiple times. Why? Because you have something that you think might help them. They don't know that yet, but all we're doing is ask them about themselves. Again, we haven't done any soliciting. We haven't sold anything at all. We're just asking them about themselves, all right? And the reason you do it this way is you act like you actually want to talk to them. So like if you actually want to talk to your mom or your dad or pick some person that you like, what would you do? Would you text them once? No. You text them, you call them. And then a couple hours later, you text and call, be like, hey, what's up? Hey, where are you, right? Because you'd act like you're actually trying to get a hold of them, not work them like a lead. You act like a human being, and people respond to you like a human being. Crazy. Okay. So got our list, we picked our platform, we personalized it, and then we reach out to 100 people, and we do each of those 3 times. Now, some people are going to respond. What do I say now? Use the ACA framework. Acknowledge, compliment, ask the next question. All right, this is also, by the way, how you have a conversation. Pro tip. So acknowledge what they said, and then restate it to show that you're listening. Now, in a phone call, that's called mirroring, right? It's something that people actually like people who mirror them, and it sounds ridiculous. Now, you don't be a weirdo about this, all right? It's just showing that you're listening to what they're saying, and it shows that you're paying attention to them. Because the 3 things that reward people are attention, affection, and approval, all right? So we're showing attention and approval by paying attention to what they're saying and then saying it back. So it shows we approve of it, all right? And so like, example, 2 kids, and you're a full-time accountant, and they just told you that they have 2 kids and they're a full-time accountant. Like, wow. Now we go to C. Now we compliment them. Man, you're a super mom, so hardworking. And you're managing a full-time career with 2 kids, that's crazy, right? And so what you do is you compliment them on whatever it is they told you about themselves, all right? And ideally, if you want to go super here, tie it to a positive character trait if you can, all right? So if you want to say that, see, it says hardworking, all right? You want to tie that thing they are to a trait, because what we're going to do later is we're going to use that trait and associate our thing with the trait we associated them with. And so then they're going to see I equals should buy this product, because they want to maintain that positive trait in your eyes, because they want your attention, your affection, your approval. So we've acknowledged what they said, we give them a compliment about it, we associate with a label that's positive, and you might be like, this sounds like a lot. It's going to be via message or via email, and maybe it's a phone call, you'll get some reps in. And guess what? You're going to blow in the beginning, and that's okay. Because guess what? If you do 1,000 of these, you'll blow less than you did at the beginning. That is a promise. All right, and so that's guaranteed. And so if you know you can blow less in the future, then you might as well get the blowing now today out of the way. All right, so the last A is you ask the next question. And so here's the key part, like this is the key, is you lead the conversation in a direction closer to your offer. So if I have that mom who has 2 kids, now mind you, she didn't bring up anything. She just, I have 2 kids and I'm an accountant. Okay, well there's nothing new there, that's fine. I use a purposely boring scenario to show you how this works. So if I were selling therapy, then I'd say, hey, do you ever get time for yourself? If I was selling fitness, I say, hey, do you have time to get workouts in? Or how do you prep your food? Or how do you prep your food for yourself and your family? These are all ways that I could weave that in. If I was selling cleaning services, I would say, hey, do you have anyone who helps you around the house? It doesn't matter what they said in the beginning, you can still ask and lead the conversation in whatever direction you want. ACA, acknowledge what they said, compliment them for saying it, and then ask a question that leads them one step closer to what we're ultimately gonna offer them, okay? Again, I'm gonna say this because I want you to know that you're providing value. All right, this is what's crazy about this. People love talking about themselves. Let them. They love it so much that they pay therapists $100 an hour to listen. All right, and so you are providing value to people that they pay $100 an hour for simply by listening and paying attention. All right, and they will also like and trust you more if you do. And if people like you and trust you more, you will make more money. That is a promise, and that makes them more likely to buy from you. We want that. So, now that we reach out to them, they responded, we do ACA to warm them up, we take the next step, and here's the key. We make them an offer. What we're doing here, remember that lead magnet we made earlier? Well, now we're gonna use it. So if you have your core offer, you can make the core offer, or my recommendation, you can use the lead magnet. All right, you give away the free or discounted thing so that they wanna take a step towards you, all right? And here's what to say, all right? So I try to make this as simple as humanly possible. Now, the key here is that when we make the offer, we're actually not offering it to them. We will be offering it to their friends. Key distinction. No one wants to be hawked shit. No one wants to be pitched stuff. But what you are doing is you're gonna ask them if they know anybody. All right, so you say, hey, by the way, do you know anybody who's described the struggles that you think this person's dealing with or already has said they are? Who's looking to whatever the outcome of the thing that you sell is in a certain period of time that they can expect to get the outcome? I'm taking on 5 case studies for free because that's all I can handle right now, implied scarcity. I just want to get some testimonials for my service. Reason why? I help them dream outcome without the things they hate. It works. I even guarantee it. So I even guarantee people get the dream outcome, or I work with them until they do. I just had a girl named Sarah work with me to get the thing that you just told me you wanted, even though she had the same struggle that you just described to me. And I also had a guy named Tom, and it was his first time. And we're showing 2 different things. One is we're showing an ideal prospect, and then we're also showing the fact that you don't have to be really good, and it's on, even if it's the first shot, they can do it. I used to even joke when I was selling weight loss. I was like, I even had a girl who didn't speak English who used the meal plan. It was so easy. And so people were like, okay, well, if somebody who could speak English could do it, then I guess I could do it too, right? It tells them subconsciously that it's an easy thing for them to do, right? And so moving back to the script, I just like more testimonials to show it works across different scenarios. So does anyone you like come to mind? And at that point, they'll either say yes or no. Now, 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, fuck my friends. Like, I'm interested, right? But if they don't, and they say no, then you say, haha, does anyone you hate come to mind? And then it kind of helps you break the ice there. That's why I say, does anyone you like, any friends you like come to mind that might like benefit from this, that I can help out with this, that might be interested in this? What I don't want is for you to take this word for word. I want you to take the ideas and apply it to yourself and use your own, like if you would never say something this way, then don't say it this way. Say it your way. And again, this is where the reps comes in. And you'll learn the reps and you'll learn how to say it and then it'll sound like you. All right, but these are the core things we're saying here. And you'll notice from the first book, we're actually hitting the 4 elements of the value equation. We talked about the dream outcome. The perceived likelihood of achievement is implied because we show multiple testimonials in our little mini pitch. We talk about the time delay, how quickly, and we talk about how we can do it without the effort and sacrifice. All of those things in a short statement. Now you can do this via email, you can do it on the phone, you can do it via message, and this might be broken up into 2 or 3 messages back and forth, but fundamentally, this is what we're communicating, all right? Now, I like that, do you have a friend who comes to mind? Because you can also like, okay, well, do you have an enemy who comes to mind? It breaks the ice and makes it seem like way less pressure, okay? And that breaks the awkwardness. Because remember, and this is the big underlining point, you're not soliciting them. You're asking them if they know anybody who would like the thing. And so in that way, you can basically sidestep all the ick associated with pitching stuff or that you've maybe been pitched or have negative experiences with, okay? And so, not asking them to buy, we're asking if they know anyone, and we're asking them if they know anyone who wants something for free. We're not even asking them to buy. We're asking them if they want our lead magnet. That's massively discounted or free altogether. Do you know anybody who would want my book on leads? I just wrote it, it's free. Do you know any business owners who could benefit from that? Local businesses or national, either would work. Actually, well, tell me more about it. They showed interest in the thing we have to sell. 1 step forward. Now we have a conversation. And so if you have even less time, because you're like, man, that's a lot of stuff. Basically, you're just saying, hey, I help ideal customer get dream outcome in this time period without effort and sacrifice. And I've done this a lot of times. Here's some examples. All right, and this is the short and sweet version that works well for email, text, DMs, calls, in person. Just fill in the blanks, okay? So I was thinking about putting this separately, but I'm gonna include this right now, is that there are 11 ways to increase perceived likelihood of achievement, because I said it was one of the 4 variables. And so what we wanna do is weave as many of these in as we can without seeming overwhelming. And now you might not have all of these, but highlight the ones you do have. So 1 is we show proof that we have done what they want. So if I lost 100 pounds, or if I had a mental breakdown and then I no longer do, or I used to have a really messy house and I don't anymore, like whatever it was, or I had friends who had messy houses and I helped them clean it, I just tell my story. That's level 1. Level 2 is I show proof of people just like them getting what they want. This is stronger. The more people you show like them getting the outcome they want, the more likely they'll think that you can deliver it to them. 3 is just showing a sheer volume of happy reviews. Here's all the 5 stars I've gotten. Here's 100, Google 5-star reviews I have to show that. And if you're in an in-person setting, you can actually screenshot them and then post them in your waiting room. And so like for my gym, for example, tiny local business, I think I had, a few hundred Yelp reviews between Yelp, Google, Facebook. I had about, a couple hundred reviews between all of those together. And so all I did was I screenshotted the review and I put it in a frame and I floor to ceiling made my entire lobby 5-star reviews. And so when someone walked into my lobby, they're like, damn, this place has a lot of 5-star reviews. All I did was take what was already online and I expanded it and made it, I emphasized it. And so what we do there is that now when I'm making my offer, no one's gonna be like, well, how do I know it's gonna work? I would just be like, why do you think it won't work? Right? And so this is why having lots of proof is really important. And also the reason I want you to start doing this for free so you can get more case studies early so that when you have that person, when you're asking for money later, you have proof, all right? Now, 4th is certifications, degrees, or third-party accreditations to show that you're legit. So if you have some sort of cert that's required for the work that you do, then show it. If you have a degree of some sort that's meaningful, then show it, of course. 5, number, stats, research that supports the outcome that you want them to believe in, right? So what I showed earlier, I showed that average company we have triples profit in the first 12 months. That's the average. You're just stating the facts. Now, 6 is experts vouching for you. So if you have somebody who has expertise in whatever this thing is, them vouching for you, if I said, hey, Elon Musk says, Alex is awesome, like learn from Alex, that would look good for me. I could probably just show that 10-second video and people would be like, wow, it's good enough for Elon, good for me. What you're doing there is borrowing brand authority. And so if you don't have a big brand, borrowing someone else's brand authority works. Now you want to make sure that you're getting their permission to do that. Just key point, don't be a scummy idiot and take a picture with somebody and then say that they endorse you, because it is a great way to make everyone, your customers included, and that person now hate you. So don't do that. But if you do help somebody who does have esteem, which by the way is a great way to get early testimonials, is offer stuff for free and just say, hey, if I do a great job, would you be willing to say this? And say it up front. Don't try and nick them in later. Just say it up front. And some people will be willing to do that. 7, some unique or new characteristic that they haven't failed before with, all right? This is a little bit of the persuasion side of this, is that you can increase the likelihood that they believe it'll happen if you show a different vehicle for getting there than they've done in the past. And so if they failed using meal plans, but you show that you have this counting system that doesn't require a plan, then they might be like, oh, well, I haven't failed with this, I failed with that, and I can now believe that this would work for me. And this is a little bit in the selling process, but I wanted to highlight it because it is important. 8 is celebrities who've endorsed us. I only separate this out because an expert is different than a celebrity, right? If I had a PhD who said Alex is awesome versus a celebrity who said I was awesome, those are different. Guaranteeing that they'll achieve it fundamentally increases the likelihood that they're going to perceive that it'll happen, and especially if you put some skin in the game too, all right? Not just like I guarantee it, but you have to have the or what, like or else, like or what is going to happen if I don't deliver this. And the more the skin in the game you have on the or else side or the or what side, the more they will believe it. 10 is how will you describe them or their current pain they're experiencing? The more specific, the better. If you can perfectly describe the pains and problems that someone's experiencing in their current life, like nuanced to a level that they feel like you're in their head, they'll almost always believe that you can provide the solution based on how specifically you describe their problem. And this is why a lot of founders do a good job creating businesses around problems that they suffered from, because they're like, I used to feel this way. So I know, like, I felt this way, I know how you feel because this is what I went through, and this is how I used to feel, and people are like, fuck, that's me. And they're like, and then I found this, and this is what I started doing, and this is what happened. And I think you can do it too, right? And that feel, felt, found that's like a mini script there. But the big idea here is that if you can describe it to them, they will believe you, if it's specific. 11, if possible, demonstrate the outcome live. All right, and this is a big one. If you have any kind of product or service, and this is where it takes marketing genius to figure this out, okay? Showing it happening in real time. So I got sold some cleaning product from a guy who was going gym to gym to gym. And he said, hey, do you have any? And he barely even asked. He's like, oh, I got that stain. He's like, let me clean it for you. And he took all these really, like they were gum. It was gum that had been stamped into my turf, impossible to get out. And he had this stuff and he got rid of it. And I was like, hot damn. And he did like 2 or 3 spots. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And he's like, hey, and he immediately was like, hey, this gym, this gym, this gym, this gym, this gym across the street all bought some. Do you want some? And so in like 60 seconds, he demonstrated value. He did it before my eyes. Perceived likelihood went through the roof. And then he showed social proof. And I was like, shit, how much is it? And I always appreciate the hustle. Guys sweating is like summer. It was $100 for some cleaning solution, which is ridiculous. It was probably $1. But it worked, right? And so that is easier if you have a physical demonstration. Now you're like, well, I can't do that in front of someone. Make a video, make it into an ad. Make a video, send it via message. It still works, right? Like, but what if I sell a service that's more complex? Well, what if I'm a marketing agency? Well, then you say, hey, here's a call from one of our customers getting a lead from our services. Let me send it to you. Can you handle a call like this? And then they're like, oh shit, it's demonstrating in advance what it would look like to receive the value of the service. My likelihood of having it happen in my mind goes up because I, as a salesman, is asking them, can you put yourself in the person's shoes who's receiving this lead? What would that be like for you? Would you be able to handle that? They're like, well, I mean, yeah. How many do you think you could handle? Oh, right? We already passed them believing it's going to happen. We're already getting them to pick how many, right? Little things that increase the likelihood that someone believes you. We warm them up, we invite their friends, we make it likely. Now we make them the easiest offer in the world. We say, hey, since I'm only taking 5 people, I can give you all the attention you need to get brag-worthy results, and I'll give it all for free so long as you promise to do 3 things. 1, use my product or service. 2, give me feedback. And 3, leave a killer review if you think it deserves one. Does that sound fair? That's the easiest offer in the world. And you make it to them or their friend, whichever. And then you see the 5 people there, they say, okay, I'll give it a shot. And here's why we do this. Because I know some people will be like, man, Alex is telling people to give all their time away for free. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that number one, you get the reps in and become comfortable making offers to people, because some of you guys are so nervous to ask for anything that you shit your pants. So you're just offering free stuff. It'll calm your nerves knowing that you're just helping people for free for now. Winky face. Two, you probably suck for now because you're new to this, right? And people are far more forgiving when you haven't charged anything. And so if you mess up a little bit in the beginning, they're a little bit more forgiving than if you charge them for stuff. Number three is that because you probably suck, you need to learn how to suck less. And you suck less by doing more. And so this gives you a great way to get those reps in, right? And it's better to have a few guinea pigs to get the kinks out, and you learn a ton from the people you help for free, I promise. You actually are getting the better end of the deal here. They're getting probably some mediocre to terrible service, and you're getting this free education from them, and maybe even some testimonials, some reviews, and by the way, they refer friends later, all right? So even though it may not feel like it right now, this is a great ROI for you. And number four is that if people get value, especially for free, they're far more likely to, one, leave you positive reviews and testimonials than they otherwise would. They might not normally have left you a review if they paid for it because they've given you some value. But since you didn't ask for any money, they're far more likely to give you a review or a testimonial or both. Two is that they'll give you feedback, especially if they don't like it, they'll tell you why they don't like it. And that's valuable. Don't let your ego get in the way. Like, we're here to make money, not be right. At the end of the day, the customer is the one who's going to tell us if we're good or not. So fix it. Okay, I'm going to give you a tip that's not in the book. Whenever someone starts giving you feedback, immediately thank them. Like, as they're saying, like, dude, thank you so much for telling me this. Because what it'll do is it'll encourage them to tell you even more later. What happens is people are even afraid to give feedback because they've been punished so many times for giving it that people don't even want to give it. So if you show that you're a good source, be like, oh man, what else do you think we could do? Do you think if we did this, that would be better? Like, you take it as a curious cat, not as somebody who feels judged or your ego. So you're like, oh, of course I suck. I'm brand new to this. It would make sense that I suck. It probably was terrible. Thank you so much for telling me. I want to do better. And everybody will help somebody who just admits fault and says, I want to do better. Will you give me the opportunity to do better? Most people say yes, right? If people do get value, guess what they'll be likely to do? One, they'll be likely to stay and pay for more, and they'll send their friends and family. And guess what? You can charge them. You make money from free customers in three ways. Number one is that they convert into paying customers. Number two is they send you paying customers via referrals. And number three, their testimonials themselves bring in paying customers. So this is a very high ROI activity. It's just delayed. That's all. And remember, we're thinking long here. You just started or you're just getting into this, we're thinking long. Here's the hinge method, all right? This is a little tactic that I'm gonna give you right now, is that if you ask for a referral from a customer, get a three-way introduction. That's why I call it the hinge method. Or so my favorite way to do this in person is grab their phone and say, hey, what's the name of your friend or whatever? And then you pull them up and then you put your name in and then you snap a picture of you and the person and you hit send. And then there's a three-way text with a picture of you and the person they know. That trust transfers partially to you. And guess what happens next? People are far more likely to respond to your message that you take out your phone and message to that group. And now you have a conversation, and it's way less likely that the friend will ghost you because they see that their friend is watching. And real, what will probably happen is they'll side message their friend and be like, is this guy legit? And the person will be like, oh yeah, he's awesome. And then they'll respond. And then you have trust, they show up, they buy. That's how it works. If you're in person, try and do that. If you can't do that in person, then at least get a three-way introduction via Messenger or DM or chat or whatever feature, because you'll get a significantly higher response rate from those leads than if you were to just say, hey, what's your friend's name? And then you cold message them. Way better to have the friend make the intro. And the key here is make it easy for the friend to make the introduction. That's the TLDR of this slide. So at the end of this, if they say yes, I want to continue to buy from you, then guess what? You got a free customer. If they say no, then they give you information to improve on. So you say, hey, what would I have to do to make it worthwhile for you to continue? And then they'll tell you. And you say, so if I did that, would you then continue? And then they'll say, yeah, sure. And if you do that, then they will, because then you got the commitment from them. And so either way you win. So you ask them at the end, do you want more? They say yes, great, you start making money. They say no, you have information, you ask them what you need to fix, you fix it, and then they become a customer. Either way you win. And even if they don't, you still get the info and you improve for the next guy, all right? And so this gives you a chance to solve the problem and exposes hidden costs to make your product better. all right? Now, hidden costs are all the other costs associated with your thing that aren't monetary. So for example, if I did, I make video edits for people, all right? That's what I do. I say, okay, I'm gonna do this for free, but my customers still don't wanna do it with me. Why? Because it still costs them too much. Because you're asking them to talk to you once a week, give you feedback on stuff, you're asking them to record content, like those are all costs. Now, they're not in the fee, but they are still cost to the customer. And so when they say it's not worth it for me and they give you the reasons why, those are the things that you can actively solve. You can say, okay, well, what if instead of recording, I grabbed from the content you already have? Okay, great, well, I'd cut out that step. What if instead of meetings, I can just send you a report every week? Would that work better for you? Okay, instead of you giving feedback, what if I just send them to you and you just approve? So, okay, well, I just took out all three of those pain points. And I'm giving this micro example, but every service, every product has hidden costs. And those hidden costs are the negative or inverses of the value equation. And so we want to find those out as fast as we can, fix them so we make our thing more valuable. And so the last line there I like a lot, which is, just because it doesn't cost some money doesn't mean it's free. Now you're like, okay, so I have my list, I picked my platform, I personalized the message, I started reaching out to them, I ACA'd, I warmed them up, I got them to invite their friends, I made the easiest offer in the world. Now what? Well, start back at the top, right? You have 1,000 leads, you got 2,000 leads, you reached out to them a few times, that'll probably take you a couple months. And guess what happens? Shit changes. Sometimes Cindy Lou Who feels good about how she fits in her dress today, and in 12 weeks, she puts that same dress on, she feels a little chunky. And she's like, man, I feel a little fluffy today. And then the DM comes to the top of her inbox. And guess what? Her taxi light is on. Now she's in the market. And so you just don't know where people are in the specific time when you message them. And this is why it's so important to reach out to people more times and more ways, because you want to do it at a place and convenient for them in the macro, but also convenient for them in the micro. Sometimes Cindy might have been trying to lose weight the first time you messaged her, or the second time you messaged her, but she might have been getting out of the van with her kids and be like, I'll get to it later, and then she forgets. So don't have an ego about like, they didn't respond to me, how dare they exist? It's just ridiculous. Like, just get more at bats, ask again. We're just talking to them and asking them a question about themselves. Remember, we're just providing free value here. Finally, you're like, okay, Alex, where do I make money? I got you. Now we start charging. So here's how you know when you're good enough, is that when people start referring or you don't have more capacity to take people on. When that happens, you swap free in that script to 80% off for the next 5. And then you go 60% off for the next 5, and then 40, and then 20, and then your full price. And guess what? After your full price, you can still keep bumping the price every 20, every 5, until you find your sweet spot where you have enough people still saying yes and your roster's full. Because when we do it this way, the way I'm outlining, you create scarcity because you get yourself to capacity. And I'm purposely doing this for you because at that point you will feel abundant in terms of the number of customers you have. And so you won't take on crappy people, and you will actually be like, honestly, my time is limited. And you'll be able to, with conviction and ethically say, I can't really charge any less than this. Like, it doesn't make sense for me. And you can be truthful about it. And then what's crazy is that when you have the rest of these people who start coming in and paying, you can turn to the people you're doing it for free and say, hey, I got all these people that are paying me, like, I either have to pick them or you. I'd rather keep working with you. Would you be willing to? And if they're yes, great. You just converted somebody. And if not, no sweat. You have somebody lined up waiting for you. So either way you win. So this is the foolproof way, or the simplest way that I know of to get somebody from free stuff, providing value they know, to slowly beginning to charge. All right, and this is a process. Now, if you want to do every 3, go every 3. The concept is more important than the actual numbers. If you want to do 25% jumps, do 20. You want to do 50% jumps, it doesn't matter. The point is that you can commit to a process, and then on a long enough time horizon, you will win. And so every 5, raise the price 20% or more, all right? So I think it's a good one to just keep all the way throughout, because guess what? The more you do, depending on what the service is, you might be able to just continue doing this ad infinitum, as in forever. All right. Now, you might have to do it every 10 or every 20, but you can still, over time, as long as you have your constrained capacity, you can continue raising the price. All right. And it gives you true scarcity, which will convert at a much higher percentage in your sales. And so I'm going to give you a little snippet from The Secret course, which by the time you're watching this, you will know that it exists, is that one of my favorite little hacks here is something that I call the pre-play post guarantee. All right. So you can get more cash up front and more yeses at the same time. So more people buying and paying up front. So here's how it works. Offering a guarantee gets more people to buy because it reverses risk, right? So here's the nice twist on it, is that you can offer a guarantee only to people who pay up front. Reason why? People who invest up front are more committed, and as a result, we're able to guarantee their outcomes. So if you'd like our guarantee, then you can prepay for the service. And so it gives you a really strong reason why for someone to prepay for 12 weeks or 6 months or whatever the time period of the service or the thing you have, or prepay for a bulk purchase if you're talking about inventory, all right? And another version of the wording that I got from my good friend Dr. Kashi, which I really love, is that after the person agrees to buy, they've already agreed to buy, they've already said, yes, I'm buying. You say, would you rather pay less today or get all your money back? And a lot of times people say, well, I'd rather get all my money back. And so paying less today means a payment plan. So less money down. Get all your money back equals you prepay and get a guarantee that results in the thing you want. So example is that pay less equals $2,000 a month for 3 months equals $6,000 with no guarantee. Or get all your money back is $6,000 up front with a guarantee. Interesting, right? And when you present it this way, the majority of people, here's what's crazy, majority of people will take the upfront cash option with guarantee. All right, so if you planned on offering one anyways, like if you plan on offering a guarantee anyways, then you might as well weaponize it to incentivize more people to say yes and pay up front. So just a little hack for you. So that's how you start charging. And now you're like, okay, I've worked my list, I'm at capacity, I have all these people, I'm selling, I'm a gazillionaire, Alex, what do I do now? Well, you still have a list of people that you have contacted, that you took all this time and effort to put together and reached out to. So what do you do with them? You keep them warm. How do you keep them warm? You provide value. So you provide value, provide value, provide value, and then every once in a while, you throw in what Dean Jackson's famous 9-word email, which is, are you still looking to forward desire? Buy your dream home, get more sales leads, tone up your arms, open an online store, start a YouTube channel, whatever it is. And that's it. Make it very simple. Small call to action, interrupted by lots of value. And this leads us very naturally to the next type of advertising, which is content. Because when you're keeping your list warm, you're fundamentally talking to many people at once, and then that leads us to the next one. And so here's your little action checklist, is that who, this is gonna be you in the beginning, what, you're gonna be giving your first 5 free, where, you're gonna be messaging, phone calling, physical mailing, SMS, etc. Who, the contacts you already have access to, when, your first 4 hours of your day. So if you're starting out or you're trying to advertise, first 4 hours of every day is this. This is your 100 reach outs, all right? Why? Because you're trying to get customers or get introductions to customers. How are you gonna do it? You're gonna personalize your message and then use ACA. How much? 100 attempts a day. How many? You're gonna follow up 2 more times after the first. And how long? Until you get customers. And so I have this little quote here. You can get good enough at almost anything in 20 hours of focused effort. The problem is most people spend years delaying the first hour. So don't delay the first hour. Watch this thing, do this checklist, and start today. And so here's what to expect, because you might be like, all right, well, how am I doing? Typically, 1% to 2% of the people that you reach out to will buy. So I just wanna set this up. Like if you reach out to 20 people, like no one bought, it's like, duh. Like 1% is 0.2 people, and 0.2 people don't exist, all right? So 1% to 2%. So expect 80% not to reply. Of the 20% that do reply, and if you're doing better than this, awesome, amazing, you're killing it, okay? So if you're getting 20% to reply, of those 20%, you get some of them to reply and get the free thing. And then of those, 1% to 2% will buy. So of 100 reach outs, you'll get 1 to 2 people who wanna buy your thing. And so when you look at your list of 2,000 leads, guess what? You've got 20 to 40 customers in there. And for most people, that will replace your job and your income.